Okay, in this video we're going to go over camera shake and how to apply that and why we would apply it in a game. So at the minute when we're playing our game, we have our AI, and whenever we shoot it, it explodes, and it just feels like it doesn't have much impact in the world. And that's where camera shake can kind of come in handy. It can kind of present your mechanics in a more powerful way. So we kind of typically do this if we've got, like, say, a really powerful weapon, or we're beside an explosion, or maybe we've got a massive aircraft flying overhead. We can, present that mechanic and that element in the world more powerfully if we add camera shake. And this is where we can kind of combine like camera shake, sounds, and particle effects to kind of really add game feel and present the mechanics to the player a lot better. It also means that we're feeding back to the player much more on exactly what's happening in the game, which is really important, because if that breaks down and the player has little understanding of what's happening or what impact they're having in the world, it doesn't become that interesting anymore. So camera shake is one of those elements that we can actually develop in Unreal and then apply to something like this character exploding. So to do that, we actually create a blueprint. Okay, so we're just going to go into our blueprints folder here, right click and go to blueprint class. And I'm going to search for shake, if I can spell. And the one that we want to look at is the matinee camera shake. Okay, and I'm just going to call this camera shake explosion. All right, and open it up. So it's not quite like any other blueprint that you have. Obviously it's coming from a parent class called camera shake. Typically the only thing that we use in here is our oscillation and like play rate and stuff like that there. You can do some scripting in here, I suppose, depending on like what type of shake that you want, but typically I would just play this in a kind of once off situation and have multiple other blueprints that would handle different types of camera shakes. So some of the things that we're going to have to do is our oscillation duration. So how long do we actually want this shake to last? With an explosion, maybe a second, something like that there would do. And then what we have here is the different types of oscillations that we're going to have. And oscillations are basically like a wave, going up and down. So we can have a rotation one, so rotating the camera around in certain ways. A location one, so maybe shaking it left, right, and up and down. And an FOV one, which is kind of changing like the scale of the camera field of view, which we're not going to use. To be honest, what we're going to use is mainly just rotation and location, but we mightn't even use the X on the location, which will make the camera like go forward and back. I kind of feel like that's a bit too much, but we can change each one as we go along. So in each area then we've got an amplitude. So amplitude is basically how big the wave is, okay? And frequency is how often that wave happens, okay? So if we've got like a high frequency, it will like happen a lot. If we've got a low frequency, it won't happen very often. So we can kind of use those here to determine like basically the power, how powerful each oscillation is. For pitch, I always think of this in terms of like an airplane. So pitch is kind of like raising the nose of an airplane up and down. Roll, hopefully we've all done a barrel roll. Barrel roll is kind of like rotating a plane around its central axis. And then yaw is if a plane was able to kind of like rotate sideways, okay? And so I'm going to kind of look more at pitch and yaw, to be honest. So I'm going to come in here and go amplitude. To be honest, I don't know what numbers are best in here, so we're going to have to test these. So I'm going to go with like say maybe 10 and frequency 20. Let's go with that. And I'm going to do the same in my roll as well. Okay, I'll go 10 and 20 in here. And I'm going to also do that in my Y and Z of my local or my location oscillation. So 10, 20, amplitude 10, 20. Okay, so say that is something that works. Okay, so once you kind of set the numbers in here, that's kind of you done with this blueprint. All we have to do is go to where the explosion is happening. Okay, So if I go to my lecture AI, you can see here, this is where the particle effect is spawning. It's within the lecture AI blueprint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and type in camera shake. And let's see if I can find it here. Play world camera shake, that's what we were looking for. Let's connect this up. So in here it needs what class of shake that we're going to do. So we've just made camera shake explosion. So we can get that camera shake explosion. We need to know an epicenter. So where is this coming from? So an epicenter you can think of as like an earthquake. Where is this earthquake coming from? Or where is this shake coming from? And we can just get the player actor here. So, oh, I'll just get another one. Get actor location. And plug that in. And then we need to know what the inner radius is and the outer radius. So this is basically, if a camera's inside this radius, they're going to be ignored. And if the camera's outside this radius and inside, camera outside of inner radius and inside this are affected, okay? So if you're outside this but inside this radius, you're going to be affected. So let's say for an explosion, we're going to have, I don't know, let's say if you're 20 meters away, you still want to have like a screen of shake. So that would be 200 is 2 meters, and that's 20 meters, okay, so 2000. And then our fall off is like, fall off affects the outer radius. So depending on how close you are to the inner radius, which is 0, which is just right at the epicenter basically, there's going to be a fall off, okay? So if we're right, like say 20 meters right on the cusp of this radius, it's not going to be as powerful, okay? So we're going to have some fall off. If you don't want that, you can just change it to 0, okay? And that's it. So if we play the level, I may have to change these values. Oh my god, that was way too much. So it did work, but I think our amplitude is too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to maybe like 2 on each one, and I'm going to put the frequency up to like maybe 40, okay? So it happens, I think 40 times in a second. So let's go again. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Now I think a second's too long, so I'm going to make this 0.5. Press play. Yeah, that's much better. And let's let's get rid of this. Let's play it so we're kind of far away from this enemy. Oh, he can't see me. Oh, well. You can see it's not as powerful. The more distance I kind of put between me and the AI. And there's other things that you can do. You can use this here for like if you've got a shotgun, okay, shotgun's pretty powerful and you want a bit of screen shake for that there. Now you do have to dilute these numbers in. You can't just put any number in and kind of be okay with it, and you don't want to go too wild with it because otherwise, it's not going to be a great experience if the player's shaking all the time. So it's a powerful tool to use. Definitely have it in for powerful weapons, anything that has explosions, anything that's big and it's got like a big presence in the level, like something with an engine and it's moving. You want to have that screen shake beside it, okay, to kind of give it impact into the world. It's a pretty simple thing to set up and apply to anything in the world as well, so definitely give it a go.